In this video, I'm going to show you how to anchor yourself to a higher timeline. And this is critical before our timelines permanently split. Hi, I'm Saratoga Ocean, and I work together with an interdimensional, interuniversal, and extraterrestrial force known as Telstar, along with Archangel Michael. At some point, there will be a permanent split between a higher natural timeline for this planet and a lower timeline of total AI control. It is critical that we prepare ourselves for that inevitability right now. If you wait around to see what happens, or assume that someone else is handling things, then you do so at your own peril. By the time you find out what actually happens, it will be too late to do anything about it. This is why I don't believe in waiting around for white hats and ETs to fix everything. If they show up in a meaningful way, well, that's great. But so far, that hasn't happened. And we are really out of time. So we need to get busy preparing and taking care of things for ourselves. We need to take command of our own lives and our journeys in this universe so we can ensure a positive outcome for ourselves, certainly for ourselves as individuals. Now, our first goal should be to activate our power. I'm going to show you how to position yourself to begin that process. It begins with understanding the power of reference points. We have natural built-in reference points as human creators. When untampered with, those reference points are what allow us to know ourselves and to exercise our power to create and manifest. Now, on planet Earth, most of those basic natural reference points have been stolen from us. And now the controllers are in the process of stealing whatever else is left of us as natural human beings. Now, the first most significant reference point that was stolen from us is our memory of who we are in this universe. See, we come to this planet and enter into a body that does not have the ability to accommodate a conscious memory or continuous knowledge of who we are as infinite beings on a much larger journey of evolution. We find ourselves born into a body that feels like a blank slate. This is so that we can be easily programmed. Now, there are a lot of spiritual people on this planet who like to promote this lack of memory as a good idea. They say we did this to ourselves because we wanted the challenge. They say it's good for our spiritual growth. The only problem is that we don't tend to live long enough to remember anything. Most of our lives are spent coping with the absence of all of the other reference points that were stolen from us. See, this is what I like to call a cosmic Stockholm syndrome. Instead of admitting that this level of disempowerment truly sucks, people will say that it's good for us. They will say that there's something to learn from this kind of a major handicap in our consciousness, which I obviously do not agree with. And this is especially bad for starseeds and light workers, isn't it? I mean, how much time do you spend feeling anguished and confused about who you really are and why you came here? This is just ridiculous. Now, recovering that major cosmic reference point of memory for ourselves is going to take some serious and probably long-term evolution. See, it's not really enough to get into a hypnotic regressive state or visit with a psychic to figure this out. We have to be able to live the experience of who we really are at all times without any effort at all. This is one of the main reasons that we need to stay on a natural path of evolution. We need to get back to the purity and the power of who we really are. And natural evolution is the only way to get there. The other major reference point that gets stolen from us has to do with life purpose. Now, even though our bodies cannot hold a memory of who we are at birth, our hearts can still inform us about why we came here. Our hearts still hold the blueprint of our higher purpose on this planet. But that gets stolen from us too and replaced with a purpose that gets decided by society, government, school, and religion. It gets decided by the controllers. According to them, our purpose is to live as slaves to their agenda. And if we hesitate to buy into that, we will soon realize that we live in a crushing system of punishment and reward. We will be rewarded if we buy into slavery and punished if we don't. So fully reclaiming the experience of living purposefully in this universe will also take some major evolution. Now, what I've talked about so far is related to two of the most important questions in life, which are, who am I and why am I here? These should not be questions at all, but because they are, we need to evolve into those answers and live those answers permanently at a universal level. This is not just about our time here on planet Earth. The danger we are in right now is that this AI agenda can take us into a reality where such evolution is no longer possible. Now, if we get drawn into that lower timeline, we will eventually find our way out, but that could take eons and eons of untold suffering and entrapment, which are entirely unnecessary. And we don't need to go through that. That is not spiritual growth. That is actually quite the opposite. So the choices you make now and how you choose to look at our situation is pivotal. The reason we have the questions of who am I and why am I here is because those vital reference points have been stolen from us. So let me summarize what I've said so far, and then I will show you how the controllers are trying to steal the remainder of our human reference points so they can push us to a point of no return. Basically, we need to heal from the experience of living with the questions of who am I and why am I here? These questions denote an absence in our experience of the truth. It's not enough to have someone else tell you the answers. You have to be the answer yourself. The only way to permanently heal from these questions is to stay on a natural path of evolution that will likely go well beyond this lifetime. And we are now at a breaking point in that path. That's what the timeline split is all about. So let me explain to you what the controllers are doing right now to get us to that breaking point. We have now reached a point where the controllers are in the process of stealing whatever remains of our basic essence as human beings. There are 4 main reference points in this regard that I want to share with you. They are basically stealing each one and replacing it with an artificial version that suits themselves. Let's start with the first one, which is the nature of Earth's reality in this universe. This is the easiest one to see because this theft has been going on for a long time. There is a very clear reason why ET disclosure does not occur from the powers that be. I really don't know why we continue to rely on the government to validate what we already know is true. See, we are told by so-called science, which I dare say is the science of morons, that there is no intelligent life anywhere else in the universe. That's right. This entire gargantuan universe was created just to house a bunch of confused, disempowered people who love to engage in war and violence. That makes total sense, don't you think? And the religions back this up entirely. They tell us that the only things that could live outside of Earth would be evil demons. Oh, that makes sense too, doesn't it? An entire universe created just to house one tiny planet that is no bigger than a speck, where a bunch of crazy, confused people live, surrounded by a bunch of potential demons. Okay, now why would they keep the truth from us that the entire universe is teeming with intelligent life? They don't want us to have any reference points beyond the havoc that they have been wreaking on Earth. They don't want us to know about any other way of life other than the slave system that they have created here. That way, we'll think that we're lucky to be entertained by sports and movies, and also very fortunate to get some holidays and some vacations along the way. If we don't have any contrast with more advanced civilizations, then we are much less likely to complain or rebel. We won't even know that we're in a planetary slave system because we have nothing to compare it to. This is the real reason that the subject of UFOs and extraterrestrials is so tightly controlled. They can't afford to have us thinking about any other planetary possibilities. That would just wreck their whole scene. So the first reference point that they have stolen from us is the extraterrestrial universe. They've kept us in planetary isolation in order to remove this reference point from our consciousness. And they've obviously had some alien cooperation in order to pull off this massive lie. The second reference point that they are now heavily in the process of stealing from us is our basic human nature as man and woman. They start by refusing to recognize our fundamental biological nature as male and female. They say there's no such thing. See, they've done a fine job of trashing and weakening men. And now they are really going for the jugular by destroying women. And because they've watched everyone stand down from these attacks, they're going after the children. Do you see the progression here? The protector of the human family has always been the man. That's why men are biologically, physically stronger. I mean, you even see this with ducks and geese, for heaven's sake. It's fairly obvious who the male is because he will be the one standing guard from a distance while the mother and babies are eating. Now, I'm not saying this is true for all biological species. See, these brilliant human scientists don't seem to have a problem figuring out who's who in the animal world. It's just their own species' sexuality that they are suddenly and mysteriously baffled by. Anyway, they were successful at metaphorically crucifying men. And now they're going after the women who are also true lionesses in protecting their children. Now they say that men can get pregnant just like women. Men also menstruate, they say. They can breastfeed babies, we are told, just like women. And now they say, you know what? Never mind all that. We actually don't even know what a woman is after all. And come to think of it, we don't know what a man is either. So that makes life really easy. There really are no men or women. If you want to be gender XYZ, well, that's fine. You just can't be a man or a woman because science says so. Now, these controllers are not slackers. They don't want to have all this man-woman confusion in the population. So they figured out that the smartest thing to do is to nip that in the bud when humans are little. According to the controllers, grown men and women are stupid. They just don't get it. They're just way too slow to figure these things out. Therefore, they're not fit to share these wondrous new truths with their offspring. So, naturally, the controllers have taken on the responsibility of educating the young ones and letting them know that they can be any gender they want, as long as it's not a girl or a boy. See, if you were born a girl, well, that can't be right. I mean, that's just crazy. No, if you were born a girl, then the odds are that you are most likely a boy. And the same holds true if you were born a boy. I mean, come on, what are the odds of that being real? For sure, you are a girl. Isn't this the most fun thing in the world? You can just switch around like that? What an awesome planet we live on. Okay, in all seriousness, the goal here is to eliminate gender altogether. They don't want us having male or female as a reference point. And this is going to eventually ruin things for everybody, no matter what you identify as. Because highly controlled human robots don't need a gender, and they certainly don't need an identity. Now, this is a mess on a physical level, but it's an even bigger mess on a cosmic level. What they really want to destroy are our higher reference points of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, because these exist as the generating forces of the entire universe. Our connection to and experience of these forces is where our ultimate creative power resides. If they can kill that off in our consciousness, then we have nothing. We have no power left, and they take it all. And that brings me to the third reference point that they want to steal from us. That would be our inner world of consciousness and our connection to our Creator. This is where the element of free will resides. Now, they can't kill off who we are as infinite beings. They can't destroy our light bodies, but they can cause us to sever our own connection to that truth about ourselves and then connect to their reality instead. They can manipulate us to identify solely with their reality and their energy and completely lose touch with our basic inner selves. They can then cause us to adopt a 100% fake, artificial identity where AI will control our thoughts, our actions, and probably even our emotions. In other words, they no longer want us to have any reference points within our God-given selves. They plan to erase this altogether. They want to completely take over our will by eliminating any connection that we may have to a will of our own. Now, the fourth and final reference point that they want to steal from us is the reference point of nature. They want to eliminate any and all references to biological life as having any inherent meaning. This means all of life, not just human beings. We see signs of this everywhere. We see it in the wanton destruction of Earth's oceans. We see it in deforestation and in the thousands of destructive chemicals poured into Earth's environment every single second. We see it in the terrible energy of electrical power that literally blankets and stresses this entire planet and all of its life forms continuously. And then there's the horrific treatment of animals. I mean, the list could go on and on. This artificial kingdom of absolute coldness toward nature is completely engulfing this planet. All that matters is the advance of AI. Nothing else is relevant. These are not people who care about the so-called climate. These entities do not have a single thought about the sacredness of planet Earth. They certainly don't care about how she naturally keeps herself in balance. I mean, they lie all the time. They will tell whatever lie is necessary to maintain control of their ultimate agenda. Essentially, they plan to steal our natural reference points that are designed to empower us and keep us centered in the fundamental truth of what it means to be human. They will exchange those natural reference points for artificial ones that they create and that serve their agenda. Here's what that looks like. They want to take our natural reference point of the extraterrestrial universe and replace it with an artificial reference point that says, only planet Earth has intelligent life. They want to take our reference points of masculine and feminine and replace that with no genders and no creative energy. They want to take our precious reference point of our inner world of consciousness and our connection to our hearts and replace that with AI controls our entire experience. And finally, they want to take our reference point of nature and replace that with an artificial digital reality starting with the metaverse. So we need to reclaim these fundamental experiences and rights to our sovereignty as natural human beings. See, the controllers are the worst kind of thieves because what they steal from you is your natural essence as a human being. From the day you're born, the thievery begins. Your feelings don't matter. Your job is to conform. And we are not truly educated on this planet. We are trained like animals through a system of punishment and reward. They steal our naturally evolving and creative thoughts and replace them with programmed, required thinking. Now, here's a really interesting thought. Perhaps we should have recognized a long time ago that something truly artificial was happening here when we discovered how necessary it was to repress our hearts in order to make it through this life. How love for oneself was just not acceptable. Because here's the real truth. If we as a species had been truly tapped in to our natural love of self, then we would have told these controllers to take a hike a long time ago. Which brings me to a very significant point. There is a powerful antidote to all of this, and that antidote is genuine self-love. I don't mean positive judgment of oneself because that's just ego. I mean the experience that love is who you are, and therefore you cannot be an exception to your own love. Have you ever noticed what a bad rap self-love gets? It's painted in all kinds of negative ways. It's selfish, it's lazy, it's narcissistic, it's arrogant, it means you don't care about anyone else. It means you're cold and unfeeling. In fact, we are made to feel guilty if we love ourselves because we have always been told that we're unworthy and to put ourselves last. Religions have been the biggest agents of not loving yourself. They have brainwashed the masses for thousands of years that we humans are bad. We are sinners. We have to suffer to prove our worth. And even then, we'll probably go to hell anyway, because no one can live up to the level of compliance that religious dogma demands. Now, there is a distinct reason for the controllers spewing all of this negativity when it comes to loving yourself. It keeps you in a state of being detached from your heart and detached from the omnipresent creator, which is love. It keeps you detached from your actual self, which is born of love and which is love. Let's talk about ascension for a minute. There are all kinds of formulas and rituals out there for ascension. Things like don't have any metal in your body, eat a very specific diet, be at least 51% service to others, live in a certain location, or believe in certain things. Now, I don't buy any of this. To me, this just sounds like another religion. Follow certain rules and you will ascend. Here's the truth. If you want to ascend, you have to be in a state of love. That is as basic as it gets. And this is what many of us have forgotten. Do you really think that AI can take over love? No, it can't. It can only steal your essence through the use of fear. When you are in a state of love, you are rock solid. No darkness can enter your consciousness. Self-love means that you recognize and accept the love of your Creator. It means that you are at one with that experience. When you recognize the love that you are, you cannot turn against yourself. You and the love that creates you are one. So don't fight with these controllers. Don't waste your energy getting angry at them. Be in a total state of light and love and watch them disappear like the illusions that they are. But I have to clarify something about that. When I say be in a total state of light and love, I don't mean to just experience that. I mean, you have to be it unfailingly and 100% without a single moment of exception. It has to be who you are. And we're not there yet on this planet. To get to that place means undergoing a serious and probably long-term evolutionary journey. The irony of it is that once you become it, you won't be anywhere near a place like this unless you choose to be here in a place of service. Now, some people say that none of the controller's treachery matters because it is all an illusion. Yet here's the problem with that kind of thinking. When illusions physically manifest, they become deadly and destructive. And that's what we have on this planet. We have some very devastating illusions actually manifesting here. This is why you can't go to the people suffering in Ukraine and say, "No worries, this is all an illusion, so everything is just fine." That would be absolutely ridiculous because, hey, this is a very ugly illusion that is actually manifesting with very real consequences in their lives, including death. And that's why it's imperative that we deal with our situation and not brush it aside as irrelevant. When illusions start to manifest, you cannot ignore them anymore. So I want to close with this thought about the controllers. The more that you are in a state of love, the more distant and irrelevant their voices become. They want to keep you in a state of fear, anger, overwhelm, and distress. They want to be seen as bigger than life in your world. And mostly, they want to keep you as far away as possible from that inner experience of love. Their aim is to get you to completely detach from your heart. Like I said, they cannot kill your heart, but they can get you to sever your connection to it. And unfortunately, that's something they're very good at. Self-love means connecting deeply with the love within you. And that love is like a light that will illuminate the path for you to reach your higher destination. You can only discover that love when you take time alone with yourself and be in meditation with the guide within you, which is your heart. I recommend that you do this every day. There is no savior out here, but there is a powerful path within you that is infinite in nature. That's the path that we each need to follow. So I encourage you to find that path and follow the guidance within, because when it comes from the heart, it will always be something beautiful. So if you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it out with anyone else who you feel could use some inspiration. And be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because I am here every Tuesday with all new videos. And with that, I'm sending you loads of love, light, and high vibrational energy. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Namaste.